the din of the Bechor, you give a Bechor, even if the Kohen you're giving it to happens to be a Baal Mum, Kibu Matnas Kuna Eino Tzarech La Kribo, because by Matnas Kuna he doesn't have to bring it as a korban, which he doesn't have to bring as a korban. Those Matnas Kuna like Chumah, where it's nothing, or something which is a korban, you can't give to a Kohen Baal Mum, but something which has nothing to do with korbanos. So you can give to the Baal, to a regular, a Kohen is a Baal Mum, Baal Mum at the time of shoving. So he's talking about if you're giving either nowadays where there's no akrava, or if you're giving a Bechor that has a Mum. So he says, so as long as it's nothing to do with akrava, you can give it to anyone who's a Kohen, and a Baal Mum is considered a Kohen.
It's still not a Kohenis.
Right, we said before, not a Kohen,
right,
but we're talking
about there's still an Indian of Hakrav in it. There was an Indian, since there was an Indian of Hakrav in it.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
He says, but if a Kohen, it's a possible Kohen, like a Kohen is a Grusha, they have a child, that child is a Kohen, is considered he's not considered, he doesn't have the halachos of a Kohen. Angels, so you can't give it to it, even though he's from the family of Kohen, but you can't give it to him, he lav Kohen, he doesn't have a din of a Kohen B'chalav, he's a Chalav. Fine, your day is 7 Sam Chalav. Ule Inyan, now he says, what about Imrod Saliktan with Kohen Cheresh Shota V'Katan, who are Kohening, but they're not in mitzvahs, right? So what about that? Can you be Yosei by giving it to such a Kohen? Ayin B'Sefer Ksos Achosh Esun Reish Nam Gemel Sif Kan Dalad. There's no big Ksos in this. Masha Hevi B'Shem HaPri-Chodesh. What he brings in the name of the pre-Chodesh, Upilpul Bazah, and he's the Fapel, so I think he's going to speak about part of it. The L'chora Zocha Kohen Katan. So L'chora, if you're giving it to a Kohen Katan, so you might argue, how could you give it to him? He's not Kohen. So he says, no, it's not a problem that he's not Kohen, because he is Kohen, because we have a rule of Das Acheres Makna also. So the question so discusses, do you say Das Acheres Makna? So let's say you're giving it to a Katan. So there's no problem, at least by a Kohen Katan. He's going to speak about it more, but at this point he's saying there's no problem, because this is the Kos talking. That is Das Acheres Makna. Most we shouldn't even hold that when it's Das Acheres Makna, and you give it to a Kohen. The Kohen is Kohen. Now he says,
Das Acheres Makna doesn't work by Cheresh and Shota?
Most people hold not, because they don't have a Cheresh Shota, don't have any Das at all. And we'll see, it's going to go into it.
Okay.
Mavur b'Yavamas outside of Kassan days, the Cheresh Shota B'Katan, and it says over there, Ein Cholkin when Shuma Alagoran, because it used to be the Kohen used to do it by the Goran, they used to give out the Shuma to the Kohen by the Goran, but it says the Cheresh Shota B'Katan, you don't give it by the Goran, Al Meshagim Batayim, but it says you do send it to their house. So, or you do, so there, that word seems to be by saying Shuma, you could give to not only a Kohen, you could even give it to a Cheresh Shota. Umizeh Hevi HaPri-Chodesh, Raya, the Zocha B'Kol Matnas Kuna, B'Tam Shevdas Acheres Makna Katan Zocha. Right? So, in the Chorah, the Pri-Chodesh, so the Pri-Chodesh, if he brings it right, the Chorah, he held that the Das Acheres Makna doesn't only help by the Katan, it helps by the Cheresh and Shota also. V'Haim Shem B'Ksos Achosh, and Hikshol that, the Hoa Shota, Ein Zocha, Fil Das Acheres Makna. He says, by a Shota, he doesn't speak about Cheresh, but he says, a Shota, the word says, Mur Shamachosh Mishra Sif Tezayin. You can't mind those in low Shuma. And if the Pri-Chodesh realized that, so then then what's his raya really give it to a Katan, that Das Acheres Makna, because if you give it to a Shota, you see, we don't care about Das Acheres Makna, it's worse than Chosh Mishra. The second what he's saying, in other words, we said that a person has Tobas Sanah to give it to the Kohen that he wants. But it's a Machokas and the Gemara if Tobas Sanah is considered Mammon or not. So the Ksos Tain is if you hold Tobas Sanah isn't considered Mammon, because it's not in the Chayt, it's just that you have a Skus, but that doesn't make you a Baal of the actual tree, let's say, we have Tobas Sanah out of the Bechor. So Ksos hold, and it's not called Das Acheres Makna. He holds to be Das Acheres Makna, you have to be a Bailing. Whereas if I own something, I can be Makna to the Katan. But if I have Truma, or let's say this case, a Bechor, even though I have Torah Sanah, but I'm not the Bailam. I don't own anything. I have the right. The Torah gave me a right to choose which Kohen should get it, but it's not. I'm not really being magnet to him because it's not mine. If you have Torah Sanah's moment, that gives me a Bailas on the papers. You could say I'm the Bailam and I'm being magnet to him because I have Bailas. I have Torah Sanah, and that's considered Bailas. But if the old Torah Sanah is not moment, I'm not really a Bailam to be magnet.
The Kenyan is only, like in a regular case, the Kenyan is only from the Kohen who's Kona it.
From the bottom who's giving it to the Kohen.
But
every Das Acheres Makna is that the Kohen doesn't have Das to be Kona, and an owner of something could be Makna to the Kohen.
I'm trying to figure out in a regular case, like not with the Kohen, with a regular Kohen.
Right.
The transaction is.
Well, you don't need Das Acheres. There's a Kohen. It belongs to Kona, and the Kohen is Kona.
It's Kona. So he's Kona theoretically from
Shevet Kona.
From the Shevet Kona. That's what
it's considered.
It's not happy. It's considered. So he's being Kona it, and the Shevet Kona is not Makna, or there's no Makna. There's just the fact that it's almost like a Hefker, but.
Right. But by the Kohen, he doesn't have that code to be Kona, so you want to say Das Acheres Makna. So who's the Das Acheres that's being Makna? It's the same. Because if you hold to us in those moment, you can learn. The owner itself is the Bailam. He has a Bailas in it. So you can say he's a Das Acheres. Right. But if the old Tavasana is not considered Mammon, he's not considered a Bailam, so then who's the Das Acheres Mimakna?
He's also, but from the
this is the Excelsos case. He brings Excelsos 2 times to learn else Das Acheres, because first of all he says, how does it help by a shota where you don't say Das Acheres?
It's not even Das Acheres.
And second of all, he says, how could he say that if you hold Tavasana, if you hold Tavasana as a moment, it's not such a problem. But if you hold Tavasana as not moment, it's not considered Das Acheres Makna. How does he know that? Can we bore with Mordechai Perikamid about Mitzvah, who says that? And it's not called, you only need the botany. So therefore, so the Pri Chodesh seems to be saying that you could give it to them because of Das Acheres Makna. And Exodus has on the Pri Chodesh 2 questions. Das Acheres Makna is not by a shota. I don't know whether it's by a cheresh or not, but it's not by a shota. And also, the Yod Tavasana is not Mama. He doesn't understand how that's called Das Acheres, and he proves from a Mordechai that it's not called Das Acheres. So now the Exodus wants to know how the Maisa. I mean, he brought a ride that you could give Chuma to those people. Okay, because of Hutan. Even to Torah Zexel the Kohanim Hamatanas. So since the Torah was Mazaka calling these Matanas, Havalei to Yerusha, we treat it like these people can Yarshan, right? The Torah shows the can Yarshan from their father, right? He says so you treat Matanas Kunim like a Yerusha. Ukiskar Pul Achelat Avodas. When the Gemara says if they do work for you, they could be Zoka in their payment. There's a parish of a cotton work for someone.
Right.
They could be Zoka in the, I don't know how it works, but they could be Zoka in the Skarpula. Just like there's Zoka in Yerusha, there's Zoka for a Skar for the work they done. So it tells us saying the whole idea the way Manas Kuna works is you treat it like a Yerusha or a Skarpula. And I guess because the point is the reason gave the Kohanim, I'm just guessing.
Why them specific? In other words, by Yerusha, the Yerusha is automatic. In other words, you know who the Yerusha.
By Skarpula, because they work. They're also. So the Torah gave these matanas to Kohanim because Kohanim do generally.
But why this specific Kohanim?
What?
But why this specific Kohanim? In other words, by Yerusha, Yerusha is an automatic change of the.
By Skarpula is because he did the avodah.
Yeah. By this one.
It's a time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Moshe Kasvi says this basis of Yerusha Skarpula, I'm not sure. He said Moshe Kasvi tells us Sanhedrin Perik Ben Sora Mora. There's such a thing as Skarpula by a cotton. So that's his mahalach, and you're asking good. I don't know the answer. I went years ago at Yeshiva. I heard this close, but I don't remember the details, and I have to look it up. The old Kasa, and then he has another svara in the Ksos. Kivin the Sina Balkorchach Shmein Sina Lifter Mechiyuvo. He's also going to Gemara when the scene about Korach. So in other words, let's say I owe you something, and I want to pay you, and you don't want to accept it. So I could pay you with an Asina Bal Korcha, even though you weren't accepting it. I could make an Asina Bal Korcha. So he says, and that's Machokas of the Gemara, but he says, since we hold it is an Asina Bal Korcha, lifter Mechiyuv, and once I give it to you, even though I gave it to you Bal Korcha, okay, you don't want to be Kohen, but I'm no longer Chayav. If I owed you something, and I'm Pater Mechiyuv, come aboard, he says, that's based on a Rashba, Him Kain, Nifter Hanosei Mechiyuvo, Hafilu below Das HaKohen. He says, let it be like an Asina Bal Korcha. And the problem is, so it comes out according to this, that really the guy isn't being Kohen. But you're Yotze, you're in Asina to the Kohen, even with a Asina Bal Korcha. Doesn't mean you get a mitzvah. You don't get a mitzvah. He doesn't do it. You have to see the Ksos and Tzai, but you were Yotze, you're Chiyav of Asina.
That's right. I was wondering when you said that by the Asina Bal Korcha, the person is not Kohen. So then, so
it was Bal Korcha. You can't force a person to be Kohen.
So therefore, it becomes Hefker.
I don't know. I have to look up how it really works. Pashup Shadi wasn't Kohen. That's Hefker, but that's the Torah told me to make an Asina, and I made an Asina.
It's not totally on the. So you made an Asina. That might just be you made an Asina, but it's not totally upon whether the Kohen is Kohen. But then the Kohen walks away with it. So the Kohen walks away with it.
I think it has to do with also because you can be Megarish and Yeshiva according to Torah Bal Korcha. And the Torah says you have to Nasan B'yada, you have to make an Asina.
Right.
So
she's not Kohen.
Is she Kohen or not? So that's all opinion is an Asina Bal Korcha. So I'm going to have to look at this Ksos. It's a bunch of Ksos. I mean, you tell in Gedurim, but you have to see exactly how they explain it.
Right. So
it comes out. He said the Prichledesh is saying al Stas Acharetz Makna. The Ksos was Takashas on him, and here it seems to be the Ksos saying two different svaras. One svara is that Manas Kuna are treated like a Yerush or a Skarpula, and the other svara he's saying is it's like an Asina Bal Korcha. The Torah you have a Chiyad Asina and you're Yotze. There's a note to look on the bottom of here, so let me see if someone else says.
And the Asina Bal Korcha would work by Sheriff Nishon. Well, it's not from the Sheriff Nishon.
Yeah, because he's learning that Gemara. He's accepting that raya that you could send it to the house of the parish of the Kohen.
But it's not Makna. It's an Asina Bal Korcha, but it's not a Makna.
He says over here on the bottom, it doesn't say, so look up the analyses that it doesn't accept both of the halachik of the Ksos. Right? And Masha Akasa Hubatam there, and he says the Nasivis has his own Sfara. The Fain who does Nasivis Sfara, he says you'll find in Aracha Shulchan, and he quotes, these are very nice things, he quotes the Kilos Yaakov, and let's see it to look at. So Brunetter, for next week, I'll try to see what they say.
The next say quotes Ksos, he doesn't quote the Nasivis. Is that... Did he have it?
I believe in that. I remember him quoting the Sibas. Maybe not. I've had times where he says, okay. Mufapul was there, the Indian Smicha Stas Gabi Manas Kuna. So this story of an Asina Bal Korcha, he's Mufapul because there's a Tosla that speaks about the Kohen having Smicha Stas and how that works in, I guess. So you have to see what the Ksos says. Inyanim Amukim Ma'od, Ubasi Raklansky, so I'm not going to go into these Inyanim, they're very deep, and just giving you like where to look into. So clean edit, this is a very long issue, so remember that's the whole big thing, but so I'll try to prepare it for next time. Now the Nasam L'Kohen Tumtum, let's say the person was giving his Bechor to a Kohen who was a Tumtum. So a Tumtum is a suffix, Zafar Pasha, suffix Zafar, suffix Nekeva. So he's going to you only Yotze when you give it to a Zafar, you're not Yotze when you give it to a Nekeva, right, to Kahanis. Misafik Lo Yotza, so you're not going to be Yotze, your mitzvah, Delmahu Isha. strange word, hu isha. But the tinta might have a din of an isha, if he does. The im motzim biyadim. What about if you do give it to him? Can we take it away from him? Because maybe it's a man, and how can you take it away from him? He says, "En kan makom l'haret." I'm not going to go into that sugya if he's considered a mupsik or a toughest. He's not going to go into that. The imnasan l'kohen androgynous. So then it's totally what you hold an androgynous is. If he's a zakar, a suffix zakar, suffix nekeva, then it's the same halacha like a tumta. But then he says it's totally beshitas. So what the hold an androgynous is. Im nimmer the vari zakar, according to those shitas, so he's a vari zakar. So yatsu abalam yidei. So then we were yotze. He's a kohen. And he's a zachar, so why shouldn't you be yotze by giving it to an androgynous? The amrinin, and if you hold, he's not a vade zachar, but he's considered a chatzi zachar, not suffix zachar, suffix nekeva, but he's considered a chatzi zachar, chatzi nekeva. There's some reason learn like he's half and half. The amrinin the yeshlo chelik zachrus for who chatzi zachar. He says gam came battling yotzim. He says it's also good enough. Even without call upon him zafarhu. He makes a note on the bottom, and this is the mental thing. The general shita is that whenever, for example, when you say someone's a chatzi evet, chatzi ben choron, he considers it like two people together, and it's not that he's a half evet. It's there's one mitzias of an evet and one mitzias of ben choron.
An overlap of the two.
Of the two.
Right.
So that's his sheet in here also. Chatzi Zachar, Chatzi Nekeva. So that's why he holds. You gave it to a Zachar. The fact, because the Chatzi Zachar is really is a full-fledged. And of course you understand he's not a complete Zachar. He's not a complete Nekeva. Then he wouldn't say. But this sheet throughout is by Chatzi. He said that by Chatzi Eved and Chatzi Ben Choron too. That the Ben Choron part is a full Ben Choron, the Eved part is a full Ben. It's just two people together. So he also holds, if you hold it to Chatzi Zachar, Chatzi Nekeva, he's a Zachar, and that's what Chatzi means. Right. So therefore he says you're going to be his sheet is you're going to be Yotze. In the suffix. But if you say he's a suffix Zachar, suffix Nekeva, so then the Yotze Abalim is suffix, like he said by a Tumton, you're not Yotze Mitzvah. But if you could take it back, that's a whole different child. He said, but on my say you're not Yotze me suffix. Okay. Now the Echad Chetzi Kohen Chetzi Yisrael. So it's going to be the same thing. If you have a person who's half a Kohen and half a Yisrael, and that's the difficulty, how do you get such a person? But he works these things out that you could get a person to be a Chetzi Kohen and Chetzi Yisrael. Ukvar Tziyanu B'Chibur Zeh Kamel Pamim. The Dark of Kodesh, he makes up these possibilities. To go, now he's going to give you the case. Shebo al Chetzia Shevcha v'Chetzia ben Baschari. There was a girl that was once a shivcha to two partners, right? So she was a complete shivcha. So she's a goy that became a shivcha knanis, and one of the partners freed her. So now she's a chatzi shivcha, chatzi bas chorin. And someone and a Jewish person had relations with this chatzi shivcha, chatzi bas chorin, the holy mimenu bas, and she gave birth to a daughter. What's the daughter? The bas mitzad chelik shivcha. Havlad Acher Holech. It should be Holech Acharaim. I have Havlad Acharaim, but it should be. You have Holech.
No, I have Havlad also.
Havlad Acharaim. Missed the word Holech was missing. Holech should be Holech Havlad Acharaim or plain Holech Acharaim. The He Ches Yeshevcha. And therefore, from the mother's side, the mother was a Chatzi Shivcha, Chatzi Baskarin. So this daughter that was born, the Shivcha part, it goes after the mother. So she's a Chatzi. The daughter is a Chatzi Shivcha. Mitzad HaBaskarin, and since the mother was a Chatzi Baskarin, HaBas Acher, so she doesn't go after the mother. She goes after the father. Because when the father is like he had relations with a Baskarin, so and the Yichus goes after the father, the he Israelis. And now he says, and this girl, if the father was a regular Yisrael, so then the girl is going to be Chatzi shifcha, the daughter that's born, is going to be a chatzi shifcha mitzad the mother. It's going to be a chatzi Israelis mitzad the father.
It'll be a chatzi shifcha mitzad Yisrael. It's like from the mother.
She's a shifcha. The part that's miyukus, since the mother was a shifcha, so the
she says bal chatzi shifcha chatzi baschorin.
Right. So, because remember, the Minchas Chinuch learns a chatzi shifcha, chatzi baschorin is considered a shifcha and a baschorin.
Right.
So, mitzad the shifcha mother part, the shifcha mother, the child is
she's really chatzi shifcha, chatzi baschorin. She's really 3/4 baschorin and 1/4. Like
why?
Because in other words,
the mother is a shifcha and a baschorin, so she's 50-50. She's a shifcha mitzad the mother. She's
right.
a shifcha mitzad the baschorin part. She goes after the father, who is Yisrael, but she's only chatzi after the father.
But
Chatzi's after
when
the
she
shifcha.
calls after the mother was a chatzi shifcha, chatzi baschorin.
Yes, they treat the mother like a shifcha and a baschorin.
Right.
That's
So effectively, it's like she's a chatzi shifcha because effectively that status continues on.
Right.
And we can just call it chatzi shifcha because we're not really talking about percentage. We're just talking about the reality of that.
Now the question is, the finish is like she was the mother was a baschorin, but her baschorin she was a geyurus because she started
right.
out as being a guy.
Right.
But over here, the baschorin part, she's not going to be the bas is not going to be a geyurus because the father was a Yisrael.
Right.
So with the Yisrael is with a geyurus, the child goes after the father.
Right.
So he's making this daughter now a chatzi shivcha and a chatzi Yisraelis.
Right. Born Yisraelis, not a geyurus.
Right. Because her father was Yisrael. Right.
And from the Yisrael, so that's why he said Muteros Afil Kohen, because
the geyurus Avia Yisrael, a geyurus whose mother was a geyurus and the father was a Jew, and Muteros the Kohen.
Right.
Doesn't have a din of the geyurus. She has a din of a Yisraelis. Right. So this girl now. So I'm just trying to show you why he wanted to make this extra bas into the picture. The mother was a chatzi shifcha, chatzi baschorin. What did he gain by making it the bas? The bas is also chatzi shifcha baschorin. The difference is the mother was a baschorin, but her baschorin, when she was a geyurus.
Right. She's not geyurus.
Because she started as a goy. But this girl, her baschorin is part because she's miyukus to her father.
Right.
So this girl is going to be a chatzi shifcha from the mother and a chatzi Yisraelis, not chatzi geyurus.
Well, the chatzi geyurus is from her mother. No, she's really born Jewish.
That's what he's saying. That
right.
This girl is going to be Yisraeli. Her baschorin is going to be different than the baschorin of the mother. The baschorin of the mother, she was a geyurus. Right?
I understand, but what he says over here, the geyurus Shavim Yisrael Moteret LaKohen.
And she doesn't have a din of the geyurus. She has a din of the father was a Yisraeli, so she's mutter to a Kohen. Even though her mother was a geyurus.
And in terms of his language, if this woman, the mother was a geyurus.
The mother was a geyurus and the father was a Yisrael.
Okay. So therefore the child is Yisrael, born Yisrael. And they say it's because the Aviyah is Yisrael.
Right, her father was Yisrael. Right.
Because of the geyurus rather than the geir, then
children are gerim.
Children are gerim still. Right. It's only if the father is actually a born Jew that it changes the. Okay.
And the reason he wants to make this, even though the mother was, but he wants to make the girl a chatzi shivcha and a baschorin, but a baschorin that's a Yisraeli. It's not a baschorin that's a geyurus. In other words, the mother was a chatzi baschorin, but she was a geyurus.
Right.
But here, this daughter born to this woman who was a chatzi shivcha, it's going to be a chatzi shivcha and a chatzi Yisrael, because the father was a Yisrael. Mm-hmm. Right? So then, Evan Ezra, they go after the father, I guess. And then he says, so after you have this mitzias of a girl who's a chatzi shivcha and a chatzi Yisraelis, right? Boa Kohen al Habas. the Cohen had relations with his bas for holy ben and had a son. So
and this bas is totally mutter. Chatzi Shipcha, Chatzi Yisrael is mutter to a Cohen.
Well, the Shipcha part isn't, but the bas Cohen is totally mutter. So determining what the ben is, considered, what's the ben going to be? So the ben mitzad, the fact that the mother was a shipcha, the ben is going to be yuchas after the mother, chatzi.
Yeah, but
mitzad the mother, mitzad the ben chorin, he's going to be a yuchas to the father.
But wouldn't he be chal? Because the father, the Kohen, effectively couldn't marry this.
Yeah, but the Baskorin was mutter to him. That's why he said that the Baskorin. But if you look at it, two different individuals, so the Baskorin was mutter to the Kohen.
So what happens is that the son.
So the son
is from one side an Eved, and the other side is a kosher yid, a Kohen.
He's Kohen because he goes after his father.
Okay, but one second. Chatzi. So a Kohen, but there's still an answer. I mean, bottom line is the truth in terms of the yichus. But the fact is that it's still.
It's not an answer for him with the Baskorim part. It's only answer
with the bottom line.
But the relationship with him and the Baskorim doesn't make a chol. The difficulty is understanding it as two separate entities.
No, but the fact is, I understand two different entities. But the fact is, there's still one Maisa, and the Maisa is either Usher or Mutter. In other words, I guess it gets to the question.
Well, once you say it's two different entities, you can't look at it as two different. It's a Maisa with a Shafet, it's a Maisa with a.
No, it's still not two. It's like I understand the overlap, but the fact is that. Is this Maisa? And it also gets to the question of what really makes the kid a
The chef has a psul kuna. Psul kuna produces kalolim, and the Baskorin wasn't a psul kuna, so she doesn't psul. She doesn't.
That's really what is it? Is it the fact that it's a matter? Is a definition defined by yichus, and therefore if you have relations with a psul kuna, then the yichus leads to chal. Or is the definition defined by the Maisa Vera? Even though the fact is this Maisa permitted or not?
So you have to look at it that way. Look at it the first way. If that's your shadow, that's what he's saying.
But that's okay. I guess I've read things that seem to define that it's the Maisa Vera that creates the Chala. But he's not saying that. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Well, I'm arguing with you that even if it's the Maisa Vera, but it's only the Maisa Vera, this is not considered a Maisa Vera with the Baskorin. It's considered a Maisa Vera with the Shifta. So that you're not ready to accept. So say it your way.
I hear what you're saying.
The problem is the original assumption that it's like two different
people, but. See, I can live with that using assumptions. Okay, it's an overlap. It's like dual citizenship. But the fact is, it's still there's one Maisa here. I mean, it's like hard to I'm just saying it's hard to see that you're saying it's like is it a Maisa there or is it not a Maisa there? So what you're saying is that on one way it is a Maisa there, and another way it's not a Maisa there, and that's it. Okay. I'm just, it's...
Okay, that's what you said. We're not going to get further.
No.
After Kat Bokon Abbas Oli Ben, Misad Chilek Hashef Havlad Hu Eved, so Chilek Habas Kar, Havlad Azul Basar Avi, Hu Kami. So therefore, he gave you a case where you have a Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Kohen. Right? Mm-hmm. Now he says, Shikhr Rabo Chilek Abdas, the owner of the Chatzi Eved,
right,
was Machshacher his Chelik Avos. Im Kain, who Chetz Yisrael behind a ger. He's going to be that Shikr part is a ger, Jewish, but he's a ger, right? The Chetz Yisrael, and the other half was coming still, right? So that's how you have a case of a Chetz Yisrael and Chetz Kohen. He worked it out for you,
right?
Im Kain. Im yesh lo b'chor tam. So if you have this person who happens to be a chatzi ger and chatzi kohen, and he owns a b'chor, that was a tam. V'vali hu einu makrivo mitzad chelik zaros sheyesh lo. He says he can't bring it as a korban because the owner is because of the not if he is if he's a bechor, if he was a complete kohen, he could be makravit. Right. But he's not a complete kohen; he's a chatzi Yisrael, so he can't be makravit. Mitzad zaros sheyesh the gam einu ochel machmas zaros, and he can't eat it because he's also chatzi because of his Yisraelis. Yesh lo bechor balmum, but if he has a bechor which is a balmum, that is not a korban, right? Mm-hmm. So he says, "Bavada eino sarach liktim lekohen acher." You can't make him give it to another kohen. He's also a chatzi kohen. Who chatzi kohen of chatzi kohen? So you can't make him give it. And he's going to even be able to eat it. He's a chatzi zor. He says, "V'chatzi chelik zor gamkin b'terlech b'chor balmum." There's no issur for him to eat the b'chor balmum because the Yisrael can eat a b'chor balmum. You have to give it to the kohen, but the kohen can give it to Yisrael to eat. In Kain ain't sarah litno, so he'll be able to keep this b'chor. If he has a b'chor balmum, he'll be able to keep it, and he will be able to even eat it. The Gam Yisrael Yachal Litno, and not only that, a Jew who has a b'chor balmum will be able to give it to a chatzi Yisrael. Hu Kohen Gomer Chatzi Shalom. That's his shita because he's considered a Kohen Gomer. Umali Chetzi Umali Kulo. Because Bavada Yatz Yisrael they have seen it. And so the Nyai Melu Kasafti the Kama Pamim, he goes through this whole mitzvah of how to treat a Chatzi and Chatzi.
If he was makravit.
If he was not allowed to be makravit.
But if he was, would you say that a Kohen was makravit? I don't know what consequences are, but
the Menka is a kosher korban. I mean,
right.
The Kohen is makravit of the Zor, it's possible, anything like that. If the Kohen is makravit.
And then could it be eaten by other Kohanim?
Yeah, that depends on what's kosher or possible.
Right, but it's interesting because it seems according to his argument that the Chatzi Kohen can make the Hakrava a good Hakrava and other Kohanim can eat it. He definitely said it can't. He said it can't be makravit, but it's feeding. The question is, you're saying with the evidence he said right.
He said Chatzi Zor can't.
Right.
So he says in the bottom, you see that the Minchas Chinuch holds, each kind is considered a separate entity. The fame or shoyli think before of a fish, a chetzi kohen, mishon she'os ha'matzah, was makabel l'manos kunin. So he says, the yesh that says that this is probably in the Gemara, the Suffolk and the Gemara again. The Gemara is a question of chetzi ben koren, there was Makadosh and Isha, and she considered Makul Keshes. Gemara the Suffolk. Even Kedeshes of Choko have been koren or no. Right? Because he's a Chetzi ben koren that made the condition, so she's a complete bas koren.
Right.
You say she's in Kedeshes to the ben koren part, or no. So he says that's a suffix in the Gemara. So he says, L'chora, you can explain the word suffix. The first side that she is Mekudeshes then because it learns like the Minchas Chinuch that it's two separate entities and it's like the Ben Charon did himself. So the Sat Jul ain't Mekudeshes. Who have been they know Slimanas Kun L'chetzer. So he says, if you hold it's not a Kedesh, you don't look at it like two entities, and you wouldn't be able to give Matnas Kun to the Chetzer Yev Chetzer Yisrael also.